Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on the metaverse. Again, this year we're talking about one of the most interesting topics in the tech world. Last year we talked about the concept and whatnot, and this year again we will brush over that and look into the developments in this field. A lot of topics have definitely come to the surface in the past year. Inflation, the conflict in Ukraine, all of these different new topics have come up, but the metaverse remains one of the key things that people in the tech area are looking out for. So, without further ado, we can begin our webinar. And we start off by looking at what we're just going to be talking about today. So, we will look at some of the key trends, some of the use cases in the market, and the challenges that are facing the metaverse overall, and what are possibly things that you can do in your own business. So again, very simply, the metaverse has maybe 1,000 different ways of explaining it. There are probably 1,000 ways of explaining it out there, but the most simple one is that it's a seamless integration between real and digital life. Ultimately, we're not just looking at some isolated virtual environments, we're looking at something that will connect to the real world. Now, that being said, the technology stack that goes into the metaverse is very big. We're looking at software, so things that are helping us building the visual environments, blockchain, AI, machine learning are also big contributors to the metaverse as we start to see. Hardware, we're looking at all of these storage devices, the cameras, the VR and AR glasses, the sensors. Now we're looking at things that are going to be very integrated with IoT. Communication, we need a lot of high-speed connection, so internet, 5G maybe. What's next? Is it possible that we see this integrate, the metaverse integrate into other technologies like quantum technology and satellite internet so that things are quicker and more real time? These are all very likely possibilities for us to see in the future. Now, moving forward to what we can say are the 5 building blocks of the metaverse overall as a key concept. The first thing we obviously have to see is a virtual reality. So there has to be some form of VR or AR experience to the metaverse. The second thing here is persistence. What differentiates the metaverse from any other video game or anything of the sort is that it is always there, whether you switch on a device or not. So this is ideally something that exists in real time. No one needs to run it. It's always running. Now, here, what we've added this year into the building block is interoperability, and this is very important. Ideally, you can connect these multiple metaverse environments with each other. So let's say you're connected to metaverse environment number 1, which is, let's say, a game or sandbox or whatever, and you have some money or you have some assets in this metaverse environment, and now you want to move it somewhere else. Without this capability of moving your assets or your money or whatever it is from one environment to the other, we will not really have a metaverse. Instead, we will have these separate virtual environments. Now, again, economy, we have to be able to monetize things in the metaverse. There has to be an actual economic value of things that happen in the metaverse. Otherwise, it's again just an online game where people can play, but there isn't really any actual connection to the real world from a money perspective. And other people, obviously, you cannot have the metaverse without having a large group of people who are also using it and sort of attaching value to this virtual environment. Now, that is to put it very simple. We're going to touch on the concept of the web and the development of the web, just very briefly, and we're going to very briefly say how the metaverse can impact that. So again, here we're looking at what was ideally the initial iteration of the web when you used to use your dial-up if you're that old, or when you used to look at the websites like Yahoo when they first made it and whatnot. And really what's available. Everyone saw the same thing. The architecture of the overall web was very simple. Now what we have is that your data is not your own, and it's really collected a lot by the websites that you visit to customize your experience. So if you are stationed in Egypt, you're going to see a different page of Yahoo or Facebook or whatnot, or different results on Google. If you're in the US, if you're in India, if you're in Korea, wherever you are, everyone is going to see something different because the web experience is more tweaked to what you to your own data. Now, looking at Web 3.0, the idea is that big tech no longer has your data. The data is decentralized. You own your data. You just go into the internet to do whatever you want, and you share as much data as you would like to share. Now, whether this is going to be a reality or not, no one really knows. This is something that the future has to tell. It's very difficult to see Web 3.0 coming in the next 5 to 7 years because the mere control the key tech players have in the web is just very big. So it's very difficult to imagine that Meta or Facebook or Instagram or Google or any of these big websites are going to give up on your data and just say, oh, well, you can have your own social media platforms and whatnot. There are also challenges to that because if no big operator is running these websites, now you have websites that are autonomous. Who's really running these websites? Is it perfectly democratized so people you may vote on the rules? So for example, see it every now and again that Instagram, there's some censorship of some political idea or some conflict that's happening in the world, and people will complain and whatnot. So in the now, what's happening now is that the platform owners, Instagram's management would sit down and decide, do we want to censor this? Do we not want to censor this? In Web 3.0, how does that happen? Do people do a vote? Is it a more popular opinion? How do you really achieve that? That's a question for the future. Now, the metaverse may help with that because you move into virtual environments that are less controlled by big tech. However, whether that's actually going to happen or not, that's still to come, because we see a lot of smaller metaverse company like entities come up, but whether it's going to ultimately transform to Web 3.0, it's yet to be revealed. So now let's look at what is going to happen from a metaverse perspective. So the concept is very simple. This is a connected world of virtual environments integrated with the real world. Okay, now let's look at what we have right now. The current status is what I like to call virtual multiverse, VMV. This is mainly a lot of virtual environments that have one or two or three or four of the building blocks that we discussed. They may have other people, they may have a virtual environment, they may have an economy, so they have their own sort of monetary currency or such, or maybe they allow you to use real currency or cryptocurrency or whatnot, but we are still not seeing interoperable. So we can see games, we have digital twins, so factories have some digital twins, entertainment and events, we will see platforms that allow that, industry simulations. All of these things have some aspect of the metaverse, but in reality, they're not connected enough that we have a metaverse. So what's the evolution going to look like? We have three possible scenarios. The first one is a fully integrated metaverse. Bear in mind what this means is all of these environments are going to be built using the same visual protocol or very similar visual protocols. They're going to be very connected in terms of governance. All of these things have to apply. Now, we have another scenario, which is semi-integrated, where we're going to see some integration between some environments, but it's not going to happen across the board. So not all of the metaverse environments are going to integrate. And the last thing we have is that it's fragmented, where it's going to stay as it is, this VMV, virtual multiverse. We have all of these smaller virtual environments and nothing really big that we can call the metaverse. So there isn't one place that you can visit and say, this is the metaverse. You can play games here, you can do industry here, you can sell things here. That's not going to happen. Now, in my humble estimate, I think what we're going to be more likely to see in the next 5 years is semi-integrated environment. What that looks like is that digital twins and industry simulations are going to combine. How is that going to happen? Let me give you a very simple example. Let's say you work in the logistics industry and you have created a simulation that helps you understand when your shipments can be made, when the delays are going to happen, etc., etc. And let us say, on the other hand, there is someone who's working in the automotive industry who has a simulation of their own for their supply chain and want to integrate with the logistics company. So now we've got a logistics company that has its simulation or digital twin. We have an automotive industry company that has its own industry simulation digital twin. And what they're going to do is they're going to integrate so that they have full visibility on when to expect things when they happen real time. So, for example, let's say there's a disruption, there's a delay in the production of a car. Now, this is going to cause a delay in the logistics. Now, instead of waiting for that company to reach out to the logistics company, they're connected. The logistics company know what's happening anyway. So these are more likely examples that we're going to see in the future. We're not necessarily going to see a fully integrated metaverse, not in the next 5 years at least. Now, last year we spoke about the estimate of potential business opportunity, and it ranged from $1 to $30 trillion. Now, when we look at more recent estimates, they range in the neighborhood of $13 trillion. Now, here's the question. Does that mean the opportunity has decreased? And the answer is absolutely not. What's happened is that these estimates are now based on more solid understanding to what the possibility of the metaverse has. Is it going to be something that everyone in the world going to use? Not necessarily. But is it something that's going to be integrated into people's lives and you're more likely to see it slowly coming into a more natural form in the future? Absolutely. So this estimate is for the year 2030, and we can see that this decrease in number does not really mean that the value of the opportunity has decreased. It's more of we're being more realistic and we are being more accurate in this sense. So let's look at what's driving the opportunity. We have things like behavioral factors. Recent surveys by McKinsey and Company say that almost 59% of people would prefer doing things like socializing, shopping, education, fitness on a virtual platform rather than in the real world. And I'm sure that in your life, if you are asked to meet everyone that you text on your phone, you're probably going to say, no, I would rather at least be texting a few of these people. When we're doing shopping, if there's something that you can buy online, you're obviously going to prefer doing that. Fitness, education, again, if you've got that accessibility, then it will be a better option for you more often than not. Now, what this means is that, well, you're already doing things in the virtual world. What if we can enhance it through virtual reality and AR or other applications of the metaverse? That is the opportunity. Another thing is market momentum. The market value of XR devices, which are basically VR, AR devices, things that help you see the virtual world through your eyes and through natural movement, is dramatically increasing. Since 2021, there has been an increase in that market value, and the projection is that by 2028, it will be $250 million. So that is a very, very big number. And we've got maybe potentially 5 billion users who are going to be integrated into the metaverse as per some estimates. So we're looking at a market that's growing. We're looking at a behavior of people that is still very connected to the virtual world and is more likely to continue to do so even after COVID has eased its constraints. So let's look at the factors that are holding back the opportunity. Now, there's a communication challenge. The metaverse is really a buzzword. A lot of businesses don't really understand the implication of the metaverse. It gets deprioritized when you're looking at bigger issues like inflation or global conflict or supply chain crises and things along this line. So people don't really understand what the metaverse is, and that really gets in the way of the opportunity when it comes to businesses applying the metaverse for their product. Now, another issue is the perception of the concept. Most C-level executives don't think that it's going to have any impact on their business, or it will have minimal impact on their business. There are a lot of concerns on data governance and security and cybersecurity. There's a lot of connection to the metaverse concept with things like the cryptocurrency. So when you see that the cryptocurrency is dropping and crashing, you think, oh, well, that means the metaverse is also dropping and crashing. These misconceptions are causing the slower growth. So we've got on one side people who are interested in using the virtual world. We've got markets that are growing in terms of hardware and software, but we also see businesses, either whether small or big, thinking, well, this may not have an implication. We shouldn't really worry about this. We've got other bigger things to worry about, which can be in some sense correct, but it does not mean that the metaverse is going to be of minimal implication or not going to have any implication at all. That's actually inaccurate. So now we're just going to go through some use cases for your to feed your knowledge of what the metaverse might look like in its early iteration, maybe food for thought for your business, or maybe you want to use one of these. So the first one we're looking at is collaboration. Collaboration is definitely going to be a big thing with the metaverse. Here we can see an example by Microsoft Teams, which has unfortunately been a very squeaky the past few days, but perhaps one of the things they're trying to do is implement a new layer to it called Mesh. And Mesh is going to basically allow collaboration on a new level. Now, one of the ways that can happen is that you can create your avatar and then you can communicate through that avatar. Now, that may not be the biggest implication, but let's look at things of bigger implication, like using AR when you're talking through Teams. So you can see people here looking at virtual maps in AR, looking at possible supply chain, routes and risks and whatnot. So there can be possibility of visualizing things to a level where you can collaborate differently in the future. Now, we can see teams around the world that have applied this. So we have Accenture. Accenture has created a virtual environment. And of course, Accenture is a huge company, over 600,000 people around the globe. They onboard 100,000 people every year almost. And what they have done is that they've created this thing called the nth floor. And this is basically a virtual campus that can allow new joiners to sort of navigate through a virtual office, learn about the culture, learn about the processes, all of these things, all in an engaging and an interesting way. Because how many of us may have joined a new company and found that the experience when you first joined was underwhelming, or maybe there was a lot of information that you're being fed through one method? How about we have a virtual office where you go and you actually interact with people, and all through this platform on Microsoft Teams. To give you an idea of the market value here, we're looking at over $23 billion in collaboration software being sold. And the opportunity here is that these people are just going to add a new layer to their collaboration tools. Now, that is one way you can collaborate. The other way in terms of use cases is industry. Now, here again, we're looking at Microsoft because they've really started early on this, and they already have a lot of technology development that goes in the back end. And they have created something called the Metaverse Stack. And this is basically a group of technologies that build up to creating the metaverse. You start off with things like sensors and IoT, just to understand what's happening in the real world. If you remember, again, ideally the metaverse is a connection between the virtual world and the real world. They have their own version of maps. They create digital twins, and then they built on that their own AR glasses, the HoloLens, and Microsoft Mesh. So everything that goes on in an organization, especially in industry, can be very, very well integrated so that you've got this really seamless integration between what's happening in the real world, in a factory, or in an oil rig, or in an office space, with the virtual communication. Let's say you're trying to connect to someone halfway across the planet. Now you don't have to wait for reports and heavy files and all of that. You can see everything in real time because everything is connected to the metaverse. We can see that Microsoft has put in a lot of investment into things like buying the Blizzard game maker by Activision, and that deal was a $70 billion deal in all cash. This is perhaps the largest gaming deal in history, and this goes to show you how this gamification of the real world is going to have an impact on industry. Now here we can see a picture of what Microsoft HoloLens looks like, and we're going to look into actual industry use cases now. Now, one of the key use cases in industry is training and education. Imagine this, you've got a professor standing in class really showing you what a cell looks like. You've got these technicians who've got real-time manuals that are just floating around. It's not in paper, it's not creating a clutter, it's very easy to look at. And this has actually been implemented by some places like Case Western Reserve University, where students have used HoloLens and scored 50% better. We have Northeastern University, where training time was reduced by 83% because you don't have people flying around anymore or driving around anymore or waiting to get settled in class, or all of that is cut down to you putting on your HoloLens, and that's that. To build on that, we can see that the US Army signed a 22 USD billion deal to buy a supply of over 120,000 HoloLens headsets for their recruits. So the Army is going to basically get these HoloLens and use it for their military training. Now, that tells you a lot on the possibilities the technology has in just training and education. Now, looking forward to mixed reality, bringing the digital and real together. We can see here somewhere like Mercedes. Let's say you have a Mercedes. These are very complicated machines. You go to your local dealership, and the technician there doesn't really know what to do with this model or whatnot. And instead of saying, okay, well, we're going to get a technician from Germany to fly here and fix it for you, or have hours of calls and whatnot, what we do is that you just put on your AR, you connect to someone who's a professional in Berlin, and they start instructing you through the AR what to do, how to fix the machine, what are the problems, and you just basically reduce 40% of travel related to maintenance. Here we're looking at other use cases such as Airbus. So Airbus, instead of using manuals that were paper, that were 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pages long, now they have their manuals in AR form. And people working in industry can tell you the difference of how easy it is to just, virtually look into a manual and play with it, interact with it, versus looking at paper and reading things over and over and again. No, this has improved efficiency by 80%. It's definitely safer because now you don't have to occupy both hands when doing things and whatnot. And furthermore, you can innovate through the application of HoloLens. So you can see here in Ford, people are playing with the design of a car. If we make this window bigger, or these rear view mirrors bigger, you can see things better. You can change the design to make it more aerodynamic. There, to the HoloLens site, you can have these very interesting. So being said, third and perhaps application, the digital twin, on how big a digital twin can be. A digital twin is basically replicating something in real life. Concept of the digital twin is where you're creating a digital replica, a very accurate digital replica down to the material that's being used in building and down.
مساء الخير، حضراتكم سامعني؟ في حد حضرتك سامعني؟ اوكي. الاول انا بعتذر لحضراتكم، بس في عندنا تكنيكال ايشو احنا دلوقتي حاليا بنحاول نحله. لو حضراتكم يعني حابين تكملوا معانا اهلا وسهلا بيكم. لو في حد مش هيقدر يكمل اكتر من كده انا بعتذر، وهنبعت له الريكوردنج بعد السيشن ان شاء الله ما نخلصها، بس هو ان شاء الله will be fixed يعني within minutes. اوكي، حضراتكم كاتبين لي ان انتوا سامعيني، فكده I think المسج وصلت للكل تمام. تحت امركم، معلش انا تاني بعتذر جدا.
اوكي، سامعني؟ انا بتكلم كده سامعني كده، يبقى في حاجه مش لان هو تمام تمام. اوكي. Gamification انه you're going in for a certain experience and you experience it through a game like experience. انه انا عايز اعمل شوبينج مثلا، بس بدل ما هروح بقى واقيس والكلام ده كله، لا الاكسبيرينس هتبقى انه في AR وانا اقدر اغير السايز واقدر احط الحاجه على الكاميرا وانا واقف والكلام ده كله، وانترتينمنت سهله كانه انا بتكلم عن ايفنت او حاجه من النوع ده. طيب احنا لما نيجي نتكلم على الاكزامبلز دي، واحده من اكبر الاكزامبلز اللي هي ساند بوكس. ساند بوكس is a virtual metaverse فيها عوامل كتير قوي من العوامل بتاعت الميتافيرس، من ناحيه انه it's يعني مش هقول interoperable لانه هي ليها البروتوكول ديزاين بتاعها المختلف، بس فيها ايكونومي وفيها كاباسيتي ان الواحد يشتري ويبيلد ويأون والكلام ده كله. الماركت كاب بتاع ساند بوكس $1 مليار تقريبا، which is a big number طبعا. to give an example لحجم الاوبورتونيتي اللي الناس بتستخدمها فيها، انه لما نيجي نبص على الصورة بتاعت اليخت الصغير اللي احنا شايفينه على الشمال ده، this is actually a picture of a full yacht simulation او creation على ساند بوكس، اتباع بتقريبا $650,000 ساعتها. this tells you the market size لحاجة زي ال NFT، انه يعني قطعة فن معمولة virtually ممكن تتباع بالمبلغ ده. وهنلاقي انه شركه زي اديداس اشترت جزء من البلوت اللي في ذا ساند بوكس علشان تبيع من المنتجات او تعمل ماركتنج and what not. فدي كلها حاجات بنشوفها في اليوز كيس دي. طيب عندنا اكزامبل هنا من مصر، اكزامبل انترستنج جدا اسمه توت ايرا. توت ايرا بدات كفكره ديزاين سكول، وهنا هنشوف فكره الجيميفيكيشن لما بنيجي نتكلم عن ان احنا عايزين نعمل حاجه through the virtual environment. هي بدات كديزاين سكول inspired by ancient Egypt وفيها الفكره بتاعت انه we want to get people from الاماكن المختلفه في العالم علشان نبدا ان احنا نعمل حاجه فيها ديزاينز يونيك والكلام ده كله. لكن بسبب كورونا وبسبب اللوك داونز والكلام ده كله they could not do it, so they thought outside the box and said طيب خلينا نعملها through virtual environment. وبالفعل قدروا ان هم يجيمify الديزاين سكول دي ويعملوا virtual space تقدر الناس انها فعلا تتقابل وتتكلم عن الفاشن وتعمل حاجات designs inspired by ancient Egypt والكلام ده كله. They had multiple events. They have over 6,000 visitors. الويب سايت بتاعهم عامل اكتر من 1.4 million clicks. So this gives you an idea انه الفكره بتاعت الميتافيرس مش بس للتكنولوجي او للجيمز، لا انت لو عايز تبيع منتج بتاعك او عايز تسوق لمنتج especially if it's a service that can be virtualized, then the metaverse is the way to go. طيب خلينا نشوف application كبير شويه لفكره الفيرتشوال انفايرمنت بتاعت الجيميفيكيشن والانترتينمنت والكلام ده كله. هنلاقي هورايزون وورلدز اللي شغال عليها ميتا او سلاش فيسبوك. ده لسه في البيتا فيرجن، مش يعني حاجه في الاول خالص لسه ما اتعملتش بابليك. الفكره هنا انه احنا بنشوف الانفايرمنت اللي هي فيها 3 مليار شخص دي likely اللي هي فيسبوك اللي احنا بنستخدمه كل يوم likely to be integrated مع حاجه تانية اللي هي Horizon. This really tells you انه this idea of Web 3.0 بتاعت انه الناس هيبقى عندها كنترول على الداتا بتاعتها والكلام ده كله it may not really come to being، لانه في سباق دلوقتي بين البيج كومبانيز زي مايكروسوفت زي فيسبوك و انه مين اللي هيبقى عنده اول iteration او مين هيبقى عنده اقوى iteration للميتافيرس، الناس تبدا تستخدمه وهتبدا الشركات تعمل عليه اعلانات زي ما بتعمل على فيسبوك والكلام ده كله. طبعا when we look at the investment size هنلاقي انه investment 10 مليار دولار تقريبا سنويا في فكره هورايزون on different things. لانه الديفلوبمنت بتاع هورايزون مش بس ان احنا بنعمل virtual environment، بنعمل كذا حاجه including مثلا عندنا سبارك ده ايكو سيستم اي ار. فيسبوك او ميتا بيتستوا بيه الانتراكشن بتاع اليوزرز مع الاي ار، بمعنى انه مثلا انا قاعد لما اجي اعمل ستوري ما عادتش الستوري بقت شكل عادي كده، لا انا بحط elements انا بزودها، او في elements بقدر اروح مثلا لحد فاكر بوكيمون جو انه في interaction بين الرياليتي وبين الفيرتشوال وورلد in some sense. في حاجات زي نوفي ده payment system زي smart wallet، فهم برضو بيفكروا في حته الايكونومي بتاعت how the metaverse is going to work. طبعا هم they have Oculus is probably one of the most famous VR glasses في العالم حاليا. And here's what's very interesting, they have a collaboration with Ray-Ban. Why do they have a collaboration with Ray-Ban? Because in the next 5 to 10 years they want to create glasses that can be used to access the metaverse and can be worn by everyone. طبعا دي حاجه صعبه جدا. لو احنا شفنا ال VR glasses بيبقى شكلها كبير ازاي وبيبقى فيها كميه equipment شكلها عامل ازاي، ان احنا نصغر ده ونخليها في حاجه تتحط في نظاره Ray-Ban. That's the progress that they're aiming for. ودي مش حاجه مستحيله، لانه زي ما شفنا الكمبيوترز اللي كانت بتملى اوض وبتملى مباني دلوقتي ممكن توازي يعني اقل من حجم فلاشه كمان in terms of size. It gives you the idea of the progress that they want to make. طيب ايه examples كمان للجيميفيكيشن، لان ده كبير قوي في opportunity كبيره. روبلوكس، اي حد عنده شباب صغيرين شويه في العيله او يعرف حد صغير شويه او حتى كبير بس بيحب الجيمنج هيبقى سمع عن روبلوكس او حاول يلعبها او has tried to play the game. What's interesting in Roblox انه you can monetize your money into something of value من خلال انت بتشتري items في الجيم او ما الى ذلك. And you can also create، يعني users have the capacity to create new environments and new games inside the game, which is what makes it really interesting for its users. The platform بيستخدم للconcerts، هنلاقي انه حد زي باريس هيلتون عملت ايفنت كامل على روبلوكس كدي جي. ودي حاجه سهله جدا انت تعملها، لان انت روبلوكس ممكن تنزله على التليفون. So you can create your own environment وتبدا تعمل invite لبيبل وتبدا تخلق حاجه جديده تماما من ولا شيء. To give an idea قد ايه الناس بتستخدم وانترستد في روبلوكس، مع العلم انه ممكن يبقى الكثير من الناس كبيره في السن انه يعني ده شكله لعب عيال، انه الاوبورتيونيتي بتاعت 21 الريفينيو جنريتد كان تقريبا 2 مليار دولار، ده بس من مشتريات الناس للفيرتشوال كوين اللي هم بيبيعوها على البلاتفورم. طيب خلينا نشوف اللونج تيرم ايشوز اللي ممكن تواجه الميتافيرس او هتبطئ الديفلوبمنت بتاع الميتافيرس في ال 15 سنين الجايين. اول حاجه سوشيال امبليكيشن. احنا لو اتكلمنا انه الناس بدات يبقى عندها اكسس للميتافيرس وبدات انها تلبس نظارات وهي ماشيه في الشارع بتبدا تشوف منها اعلانات وما الى ذلك، فلنتخيل انه كل واحد بدا يشوف الاعلانات المناسبه هو، هتبدا الفروقات الاجتماعيه تبقى اعمق واقوى، انه حتى الحياه العاديه اللي احنا بنعيشها الناس تبدا تشوفها بطريقه مختلفه. ودي حاجه ناس كتير بقى يعني from a psychological and social impact بتتكلم فيها انه we have to control it، ما ينفعش يبقى فيه complete integration بالشكل ده. وهل ده هيحصل او لا؟ this is something that we will still have to see. حاجه زي legal confusion. يعني ايه metaverse؟ اكتب ده بشكل قانوني ازاي؟ اعمل احط ده لما اجي مثلا لما يجي برلمان في دوله عايز يقول قانون الميتافيرس، يعني ايه ميتافيرس ويعني ايه ملكيه في الميتافيرس وايه اللي يحدد اذا كانت البلاتفورم دي ميتافيرس ولا لا، والكوبي رايتس واستخدام حقوق الملكيه والكلام ده كله. كل دي حاجات that are basically متاهه لاي حد قانوني. حاجه كمان unrealistic expectations. ناس كتير بتتوقع انه الميتافيرس ده خلاص انه احنا كل حاجه في العالم الحقيقي هتبقى كونكتد للعالم الافتراضي، ويعني that's the expectation، وانه احنا هنشوف هولوجرامز بقى نبدا نتفاعل معاها في خلال سنتين ثلاثه. الكلام ده unrealistic، وسبب من اسباب ان ده تشالنج ان الناس بتقول يعني احنا ما نقدرش نعمل ده يبقى ما فيش metaverse. It will take time for us to get there، بس unrealistic expectations are definitely a long-term issue. headgear زي ما كنا بنتكلم انه الهيدجير اللي الناس بتلبسه عشان تاكسس الميتافيرس bulky جدا وتقيل جدا ومش سهل الاستخدام بتاعه. So in that sense البروجرس بتاع الهيد جير ده في الخمس 10 سنين الجايين هيكون عامل مؤثر جدا في ان احنا هنشوف الميتافيرس ده فعلا بيشيب اب، ولا هيفضل بس مجرد فكره او حاجه للجيمز. اخر حاجه الويلنجنس، هل كل الناس عندها استعداد انها تنتجريت؟ ممكن يبقى في ناس عندها استعداد لده، خصوصا جين زي مثلا، او maybe some millennials will be interested in that. بس هل كل الناس interested؟ حتى في الجين زي، هل كل الجين زي interested ان هو يبقى fully integrated للميتافيرس وحياته كلها تبقى virtual؟ دي برضو اسئله ممكن او حاجات ممكن to get in the way of the development of the metaverse opportunity. طيب what can you take as an action from a business perspective? Let's say you have a business, small or big, and you want to take some action to capitalize or avoid risk أو أي حاجة من الحاجات دي. إيه اللي ممكن أعمله علشان أوصل لده؟ طيب أول حاجة create creative capacity. إنه أنا بخلق مساحة ابتكارية في الشركة عندي، إنه أتست experiment ايه اللي ممكن اجرب بيه استخدامات الميتافيرس دي. مش ضروري تبقى حاجه كبيره جدا، والاكشنز التانية هتبدا تساعدني افهم ازاي ممكن اكريت الكرييتيف كاباسيتي دي بطريقه سهله وبطريقه ما يبقاش فيها استثمار ضخم والكلام ده كله. So the first thing انه لازم اكسبيرمنت عشان اعرف هل ليا opportunity هل ماليش opportunity ما الى ذلك. تاني حاجه document the development في الاندستري. Let's say you work in the logistics industry, let's say you work in the FMCGs, in automotive, whatever your industry is. الdocumentation للdevelopment ده هيساعدك تشوف الترند رايح فين وايه اللي انت ممكن تعمله to avoid risk or maybe capitalize on an opportunity، او على الاقل ما تبقاش behind the trend، انه بس انا عارف ايه اللي بيحصل في الاندستري بتاعتي في مجال الميتافيرس. طيب ثالث حاجه consider new business models including digital product strategy. انا ببيع product physical، طيب هل في حاجة ممكن أعملها through the metaverse سواء marketing أو actual product development جديد أقدر أبيعه whatever it is؟ طيب لو هبيعه لمين؟ فلنفترض إنه مثلا في بلاتفورم الاكسس بتاعها الماركت في حته تانية خالص في العالم. طب ما ده ممكن يبقى ريفينيو ستريم جديد خالص بتبيع حاجه جديده تقدر ان انت to support your business through. وهنا here comes the idea of experimentation. If you don't experiment you will never know what the possible opportunity is. اخر حاجه ودي ممكن تكون اهم حاجه تساعدنا نعمل الثلاث حاجات التانيين دول، انه looking out for possible collaboration opportunities. ايه المساحه اللي انا اقدر اتعاون فيها مع شركات تانية او مع ناس عندها خبره اكتر مني، بحيث انه انا اتعلم منهم او افهم منهم، او يبقى في shared risk او shared opportunity. فنفترض انه انا شغال في اندستري وفي بلاير تاني كبير شغال في الاندستري دي، وعايزين نعرف ايه اللي ممكن نعمله في الميتافيرس، بس مش عايزين نتيك a big risk on our own. طيب عايزين نشوف حد internationally ممكن يكون عنده مثلا بلاتفورم. عندنا حد زي توت ايرا هنا في مصر، شركه مصريه self funded that is building on possible monetization in the future. ممكن اروح اسالهم طب يا جماعه انتوا شغالين في مصر وعارفين الموضوع ده وشكلكم عندكم اكسبيرينس، ايه اللي ممكن اعمله انا في البرودكت بتاعي؟ طب هل في حاجه ممكن اعملها معاكم؟ طب في حاجه ممكن تستفيدوا بيها لو انا عملتها معاكم وانا استفيد؟ So there's got to be this collaboration dimension. So that's it in a nutshell. Thank you for sticking around, and sorry for the technical issue. If you have any questions, let me know. What's next? We're all going to see this together. We're in the ride together. If you have any questions, let me know. I would be happy to answer them while we're here. Otherwise, you will also have a recording that you can refer back to when the session is over. And the floor is up to participants now. Okay, guys, I think my presentation was so good in ما فيش أسئلة, which is awesome. Again, thank you so much for sticking around. Please feel free to disconnect from the webinar now. We will just finalize the recording and we will hopefully send this to you in the coming few hours or next day. Thank you again for your time. يعني كده لو
سامعني كده؟ انا كده
سامعك. انت
سامعاك.
سامعني؟ طيب خلاص
سامعاك كويس.
يعني هبدأ كأن أنا ببدأ من السلايد دي من الأول خالص، صح كده؟
خلاص أنا هابقى muted علشان بس ما يحصلش أي صوت عندي يبوظ عندك الشرح.
طيب أنا يعني هقول 3 2 1 كده
سامعني؟
وهقلب بقى كأنه.
يحصل disconnection يكلمك. سامعني؟
أوكي طيب سامعك هقول دلوقتي.
خلاص أوكي.
ألو أوكي طيب أوكي. طيب اديني بس ثانية واحدة أشرب مية علشان أنا ريقي نشف.
اتفضل براحتك، معلش أنا آسفة والله. كده كده ابدأ براحتك
تمام
وانس إن
بسيط.
أنت بدأت هنا.
اوكي تمام اوكي تاني عندنا اليوز كيس اللي بعد كده اللي هي جيمنج وجيميفيكيشن وانترتينمنت. طيب ايه الفرق بين جيمنج وجيميفيكيشن؟ جيمنج انه ببساطه اليوزر اللي هيدخل على الويب سايت او على البورتال او ايا كان الهدف بتاعه اللعب، انه بيلعب جيم. يعني الجيميفيكيشن انه انا باخد اكسبيرينس، سواء اكسبيرينس شرائيه مثلا او اكسبيرينس حتى كانه فيرتشوال تور او ايا كان، حاجه الهدف منها مش اللعب، بس بعملها بطريقه فيها شويه virtual environment AR. يعني مثلا انا داخل اشتري من المحل هدوم، بدل ما هقيس واروح واجيب واشوف الستوك والكلام ده، ببص على المرايه مثلا واختار الموديل، والموديل يطلع على المرايه او اكبره واصغره واشوف السايزز، الكلام ده كله. So this is gamification and entertainment اللي هي زي الايفنتس والجاذرينجز والحاجات دي. عندنا examples للبلاتفورمز اللي بتعمل الحاجات اللي زي دي. Sandbox. Sandbox is a virtual metaverse where players can play, build, own, monetize their virtual experience. الماركت كاب بتاع ساند بوكس مؤخرا مليار دولار. هو كان اكتر من كده بس بسبب وصل الكريبتو كورنسي فلكشويشن والحاجات دي قل شويه، بس ما زال رقم كبير طبعا. لما نيجي نشوف الاوبورتونيتيز اللي في المجال ده، هنشوف حاجه مثلا زي ذا ميتا فلاور. ذا ميتا فلاور بالنسبه لي من اكتر الاكزامبلز اللي ازاي ممكن على ساند بوكس انه اكسبيرينس اليخت اتباع وده كان السعر ساعتها لما اتباعت من سنه تقريبا. وعندنا شركه زي اديداس دخلت على ساند بوكس واشترت لاند بلوت وبدات انها تبيع NFTs من عليها. ال NFT اللي هو بيزيكلي يعني عمل فني معمول على الانترنت، صاحبه اللي بيشتريه بيبقى مالك ليه. يعني مثلا لو اديداس باعت NFT جزمه، اصبح اللي معاه ال NFT بتاع الجزمه الاديداس دي في الساند بوكس فعلا هو كانه اشترى الجزمه دي في الحقيقه. So this is what we're looking at when we're looking at gaming and whatnot. في مثال interesting جدا من مصر اللي هو توت ايرا. توت ايرا فكره بدات انه مجموعه شباب عايزين يعملوا ديزاين سكول inspired by ancient Egypt. ولكن بسبب اللي حصل في وقت كورونا واللوك داونز والكلام ده كله، اصبح من الصعب ان الناس تتقابل والكولابوريشن ده يحصل والكرياتيفيتي دي تحصل. So they thought outside the box and said well let's gamify the experience. وعملوا virtual environment فعلا، عملوا فيها الفكره بتاعت الديزاين سكول بتاعتهم، واصبح بيهوست ايفنتس فاشن وايفنتس توك شوز وايفنتس ارتستيك فيها مغنيين وما الى ذلك، كله من خلال الفيرتشوال سبيس اللي هم خلقوها دي. الايفنتس بيبقى حضرها اكتر من 6000 فيزيتور. الويب سايت عليه اكتر من 1.4 مليون كليكس من مصر ومن كل حته في العالم. فهنا بنشوف الامباكت بتاع الجيميفيكيشن، او ان احنا ناخد حاجه ممكن كنا بنعملها في الفيزيكال وورلد ونخليها على الميتافيرس. This is the kind of impact it came. عندنا example كمان كبير شويه من ميتا اللي هو هورايزن وورلد. هورايزن وورلدز في البيتا فيرجن لسه، so it's not for everyone. بس الفكره الكريترز عايزين فكره انه فيسبوك بيستخدموا تقريبا 3 مليار شخص. طيب ان احنا نخلي الناس دي تبقى more integrated في الميتافيرس؟ احنا عندنا اوريدي ناس بتعمل حاجات كتير فيرتشوالي، ومن خلال ده برضو نقدر ان احنا نبيع الاعلانات بتاعتنا ونعمل ريفينيو ستريم مختلف خالص على مدار ال15 سنين الجايين. طيب الانفستمنت سايز شكله عامل ازاي؟ we're looking at 10 billion US dollars في السنة. So investment perspectives مختلفة. Let's see what kind of perspectives أو الحاجات اللي هي بتحاول تديفلوب. أول حاجة عندنا Spark AR. دي ايكو سيستم AR الناس بتبدأ إنها تستخدم الاوجمانتد رياليتي انها تصنع مثلا فلترز او اشكال او ديزاينز، حاجات الناس تقدر تشوفها through AR. لو حد فاكر لعبه زي بوكيمون جو مثلا، الناس كانت بدات تنتراكت بين الحقيقه وبين الفيرتشوال انفايرمنت من خلال صور كونكتد او زي objects في الفيرتشوال وورلد كونكتد على الخريطه في العالم الحقيقي. So they're testing with that kind of thing. Novi is their wallet that they're trying to use علشان يبقى الايكونوميك فاكتور بتاع الميتافيرس اللي اتكلمنا عنه في الاول موجود، ويبقى ازاي في ترانسفيرز والكلام ده كله. عندنا اوكيولوس، طبعا اوكيولوس يمكن اشهر في ار جلاسز موجوده حاليا في العالم، خصوصا للجيمرز هيبقوا عارفينها. they have bought it and they are developing Oculus بحيث انها تبقى lighter and more user friendly والكلام ده كله. وعندنا ريبان عملوا معاهم collaboration علشان لما يبقى عندهم التكنولوجي advanced بما فيه كفايه انه النضاره الفي ار الكبيره دي تبقى قد الشيب الصغيره، والسكرين الكبيره دي ممكن تتحط كانها عدسات عاديه في نضاره شمس. تبدا انها تتحول انه you can take the metaverse with you everywhere بطريقه fashionable زي ان انا البس نظاره ريبان. عندنا حاجه كمان زي روبلوكس. طبعا روبلوكس مشهوره جدا كجيم بين الشباب الصغيرين شويه، او لو حد interested في الجيمنج. روبلوكس انفايرمنت تسمح لليوزرز ان هم يشتروا ويبيعوا سكنز والكلام ده كله. سكنز اللي هي يعني حاجات للاشكال اللي احنا زي اللي احنا شايفينها دي، وكمان تسمح لليوزرز ان هم يعملوا كرييشن للانفايرمنتس بتاعتهم. يعني ممكن يعملوا جيم جوه الجيم، يعملوا مساحات خاصه بيهم فيها تكستشرز اللي هم حابينها، فيها ديزاينز اللي هم حابينها. ممكن واحد بتاعه مثلا. طبعا بتشتري كتير جدا من الفيرتشوال كوين اللي هي بيتم التداول بيها في الجيم دي، وكانت الريفينيوز بتاعتهم في 2021 تقريبا 2 مليار دولار، وتقريبا هيوصلوا لنفس الرقم في 22 ان ما عدوهوش. عشان ندي برضو اكزامبل لحجم الايفنتس اللي ممكن تحصل على حاجه زي فيرتشوال انفايرمنت زي روبلوكس، هنلاقي انه حد يعني وورلد وايد نون زي باريس هيلتون كدي جي دخلت وعملت ايفنت على روبلوكس. that's how she approached using Roblox from a business perspective. طيب ايه long term issues اللي ممكن تواجه الميتافيرس في خلال ال15 سنين الجايين كتشالنجز عامه بتواجه الكونسبت نفسه مش التكنولوجي؟ اول حاجه social implication. فلنفترض ان كل واحد لابس نظاره في ار وخلاص بدا يشوف العالم من المنطلق بتاعه، بدا يشوف الايتمز الاي ار اللي موجوده في العالم والاعلانات اللي موجود في العالم بطريقه مختلفه. هيبدا يكون في اختلافات واسعه اجتماعيا، انه كل واحد يعني حتى لو اتنين قاعدين جنب بعض بيبصوا في التليفون دلوقتي، كل واحد هيشوف environment، لا ده كمان اللي هيبص حواليه في العالم الحقيقي هيبقى بيشوف حاجه مختلفه، وده هيوسع الفروقات الاجتماعيه. هل دي حاجه ممكن نشوف مثلا governments او universities او ايا كان تبدا انها تحاول انها تمنعها؟ وارد جدا، بس we're about to see that happening, or whether it's going to happen at all. legal confusion طبعا من منطلق قانوني، انه انا اوصف الميتافيرس واوصف الملكيه في الميتافيرس وحقوق النشر في الميتافيرس، وايه هو الميتافيرس وايه هو اللي مش ميتافيرس. دي حاجه يعني لو برلمان قاعد بيجتمع علشان يحددها، طبعا it takes a lot of time and effort وفيها يعني complications كتيره. تالت حاجه unrealistic expectations. ناس كتيره بتعتبر انه مادام احنا ما وصلناش للالتيميت بيكتشر بتاعت الميتافيرس ده يبقى الميتافيرس ده مش موجود، فبالتالي مش ضروري نفكر فيه، وده غلط. لانه realistically speaking مش ضروري ان احنا السنه الجايه يبقى عندنا هولوجرامز بنبدا نتفاعل معاها، و افاتارز بيرفكت نقدر نinteract بيها في العالم كله والكلام ده. ده مش شيء وارد قوي انه يحصل في خلال ال5 سنين الجايين، 7 سنين كمان. so have realistic expectations so that whatever happens you're also in line with it. رابع حاجه الهيد جير. طبعا كلنا شفنا الهولو لينس بتاعت مايكروسوفت او عارفين الاوكيولوس كويست بتاعت ميتا. دلوقتي النظاره بتبقى كبيره جدا، تقيله، مش حاجه سهله او خفيفه انها يتمشي بيها ساعات كتيره. فدي حاجه هتبقى عائق قصاد فول انتجريشن بين الميتافيرس كعالم افتراضي وك virtual environment. ويمكن دي حاجة يعني with time it will be developed. زي ما كنا بنشوف كمبيوترات ممكن نحطها في بيت كامل، دلوقتي بقت ممكن تتحط على فلاشة كستورج سايز يعني. فدي حاجات برضو possibly going to change. واخر حاجه willingness، هل الناس عندها استعداد لده؟ هل الناس حابه انها تعمل ده؟ مش كل الناس ضروري تبقى عايزه to integrate their life this way مع ال virtual environment. مش كل الناس ممكن تبقى عايزه تلبس النضاره بتاعه ال VR او ال AR يعني. كل واحد وليه تفضيلاته. So these things behavioral aspect يعني منهم. So these things might cause long-term issues to the development of the concept itself، مش التكنولوجي، لأنه التكنولوجي already ماشية وفي opportunities، لكن كconcept دي حاجات ممكن تعطل البروجرس. طيب what actions can you take as a business، مش كindividual، as a business، وحتى كindividual لو انت او انتي حابة تعرفوا عن الموضوع. أول حاجة create creative capacity. انه let's experiment. ايه اللي ممكن انا اختبر الميتافيرس فيه؟ ممكن اعمل ده فين او ازاي؟ ايه اللي ممكن احاول اكسبيرمنت عليه في الميتافيرس؟ طيب انا هعمل ده ازاي او افكر فيه ازاي؟ الحاجات الاكشنز التانية هتساعدنا جدا نعرف ازاي ممكن نكريت creative capacity. تاني حاجة document development in the industry. شوف الناس اللي حواليك بتعمل ايه في الاندستري، اعرف الديفلوبمنت رايح فين علشان ما تبقاش behind the trend. ممكن تلاقي فرصة تكابيتالايز على حاجة او to avoid risk disruption مثلا. فعلى الاقل من الاكشنز المهمة جدا ان احنا ندوكيمنت الديفلوبمنت اللي بيحصل ونفهم هو رايح فين، وده ممكن يساعدنا في ان احنا نكسبيرمنت، نشوف حد تاني اكسبيرمنت ازاي ونعمل زيه مثلا. ثالث حاجه considering new business models، انه انا هل ممكن اعمل البرودكت بتاعي ده ديجيتالي؟ يعني شركه زي نايك لو هم بيفكروا انه خلاص احنا بنبيع الحاجه بتاعتنا فيزيكال وخلاص، ما كانوش عمرهم فكروا ان احنا طيب ما تيجي نعمل حاجه على ساند بوكس ونبيع الايتمز بتاعتنا برضو ك NFTs. ده بيجنريت سورس اوف ريفينيو مختلف خالص، بيدرس group of people مختلفة خالص. So this is a market, there is a marketplace in the metaverse. So it's just understanding ازاي ممكن ابيع حاجة من المنتجات اللي انا بعملها كويس already في الميتافيرس. اخر حاجة ودي اللي يمكن تساعدنا كمان في الثلاث حاجات التانيين برضو، look out for possible collaboration opportunities. ايه اللي ممكن اعمله مع other people في الاندستري بتاعتي او في اندستريز تانية، نكولابوريت نشتغل فيه على الميتافيرس. كاكزامبل عندنا مثلا هنا في مصر توتيرا، شركه مصريه self funded، بيعملوا حاجه interesting جدا علشان maybe in the future they can capitalize on it and start monetizing their platform. طيب انا ممكن اتكلم مع حد زي توتيرا، والله انتوا في مصر وعارفين الماركت شكله عامل ازاي وعندكم اكسبيرينس في الموضوع، خلينا نشوف ازاي ممكن اساعدكم من خلال التولز اللي عندي، وانتوا ازاي ممكن تساعدوني في التولز اللي عندكم، بطريقه تساعدني ان انا اكسبيرمنت، بطريقه بتساعدني اعرف ايه اللي بيحصل في الاندستري، وبطريقه تسمح لي ان انا اشوف ايه اللي ممكن اعمله through the digital world from a product strategy perspective. فالكولابوريشن ده مهم جدا وبيسمح بsharing the risk and sharing the opportunity and a gradual growth that is not too rushed. ان انا هعمل ديبارتمنت جديده للميتافيرس ولا في نفس الوقت ان انا مش هعمل اي حاجه عادي اللي يحصل يحصل. لا انا I'm taking active action بس مش بطريقه disproportionate. So what can we see next? We can definitely expect AIs and robotics and quantum computing to all integrate. We can expect satellite internet to maybe even make the possibility of AR accessible في أي حتة في العالم. إنه أنا عندي الميتافيرس accessibility أعلى من ال 4G ومن ال 5G كمان. خلاص أنا ممكن أخش على الميتافيرس من أي حتة وأبدأ أكونكت الريل وورلد بالماب اللي موجودة في ال virtual environment. So on and so forth. There are endless possibilities. So at the end of it, I'd like to thank you all for your time. And if you do have any questions, do feel free to reach out to me personally. I would love to have a conversation with you. And again, thank you for your time. Hope you have a lovely year ahead.
شكرا لحضراتكم، ونعتذر جدا على يعني على الايشوز اللي حصلت. دلوقتي ان شاء الله بعد لما هقفل معاكم هنظبط الريكوردينج، وان شاء الله ابعت لكم السيشن على الايميل. ميرسي جدا لحضراتكم والف مع السلامه.